Let's see. And we are off. So, hi everybody. Thank you all for being with us today. It's been a while, and we got a very special stream tonight. I am uh, with my amazing brother. Oh, my apologies. My background stream was in my ears. I was like hearing myself double. That's not good. Anyway, I'm here with two of my amazing brothers. First of all, Shamosho Subdeacon Daniel Kakish. I had the honor of having him on my stream as well. So welcome, brother.
Thank you, Vartan. I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you. And we have our brother Agen of Apostolic Orthodoxy. So you two as well. Welcome, brother.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on. We're going to have a good stream today.
Sure. For those who don't know, I already tagged their YouTube links. Daniel Kakish of the Lion's Den and Agen of Apostolic Orthodoxy. Both of them tremendous resources of not only Oriental Orthodox, but Christianity in general. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I see that the chat is very excited for today, as we are as well. First and foremost, we want to start off with a prayer. I know that Shamosho, he is known for the Syriac language, but I'm going to try to pray in Aramaic, so bear with me. Abun de Bishmayo, Netkada Shushmo, Tithe Melkutho, Nahwe Sibiono, Aikano de Bishmayo, of Barho Hablan, Lahmat Sunkonan, Yomono Washbuklan, Hauben Wahto Hain, Aikano do Hanan, Shbakan Tlayoben, Lothalan Nisiono, Elofasolan, Membisha Metul, Diluch Himmel Kutho, Tailo de Shbachto, Laolam, Olmin, Amen.
Very impressive, Vartan.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did I do it?
8.5.
I give it a 10. I give it a 10.
8.5. Okay. Anyway. Before I made the promo of this stream, a brother already noticed like that the ethnic and spiritual descendant of Saint Cyrus of Antioch, Daniel is with us, that the ethnic and spiritual descendant of Dioscoros, Agen is with us, and the ethnic and spiritual descendant of Gregory of Tatev is with us. I was like, I wasn't planning for that, but for some of from God's providence, it just happened to be.
Glory
So,
to God.
yeah. The reason why we are here, first and foremost, is that we can yet again understand or try to understand the marvel that is Christ Jesus. First and foremost, that's why we are all here. The propositions we're trying to bring forward are just way how we're trying to get more closer to him and the historic church that he has established. So a lot of stuff beforehand has been taking place. We'll touch upon that later on. But first, a couple of responses here and there have gone from Kai of Heterodox Shahada. I want to say with all the respect, but for now I'm just going to call him Heterodox Shahada. To my brother Daniel, there were some stuff from his side that you would like to touch upon. I would like to listen from your side. What did he say, and what would you like to touch upon?
I want to say this because I saw the clip where people were proposing to him a discussion with me and his response. So initially, before my name was brought up, and they were just talking about Oriental Orthodox in general, and he was saying Oriental Orthodox quote mine, and they take everything out of the historical context and other contexts and whatever. And that's the reason why he doesn't want to discuss with them. And then when I was brought up explicitly my name, he said, oh, he only goes with history. He doesn't go with theology. He didn't even let Jay Dyer finish reading the comment. There were historical points of discussion I was willing to talk about, but there was also a theological one, which is the Council of Ephesus, 431, and the theology put forth there, if it was one nature after the union or two. Now, and then after that, he said, Daniel's theologically illiterate. Let him go back to reading his Syriac poetry or whatever he said. And I wasn't offended by that. I think Syriac poetry is the highest form of theology. Doesn't mean anything. So, but I want to say this: I've never had a conversation with Kai that was disrespectful or insulting or anything like that. There was never anything personal between us. I'm not sure why he is triggered or upset or anything. My interactions with him and with that whole team, Erhan, all those guys, nobody can come and tell you that they've ever had a bad interaction with me. There's nothing personal. We are both convinced in our own sides that it's the truth, and we want to share this with everyone. The difference is the way in which we do that. So when I was in there, back when I had Discord and stuff, I was in their servers, whatever. It was normal. I've had discussions with. I've had a discussion with David Erhan on YouTube. It was me against Erhan and Craig Trulia. It was fine. People can go watch it. It went very well. I encourage everyone to go watch it. I've had private discussions with Erhan. It was normal. Private discussions with Kai, normal. No issues. I don't think I've ever had a discussion with Dyer. But seeing him on Piers Morgan defending, our view against women in the priesthood, why would we be against that? We all agree that women shouldn't be priests. I don't think that the way that they have enmity towards us is necessary. What did you guys like? There's if you look at the way we talk to the other denomination, we talk to the Roman Catholics, William Albrecht, Elijah Yassi, Eric Ibarra, or we talk to even the Eastern Orthodox. It is not a denominational thing. Even with the Eastern Orthodox, Craig Trulia, Father Sweden, Father Mikhail now. I don't, Jonathan Hill and them, not so much, probably, but still, it's not as bad as Kai's group. I'm not sure what their big thing is with us. I don't understand, but I think that they need to see why they're here. What is the goal? What's the motive of their mission? He before we streamed today, he posted about His Holiness Mar Ephraim, the second Patriarch of Antioch, the successor of Saint Peter. Okay, so this post is really ironic for so many reasons. Very hypocritical. I'm not sure if Kai himself is like analyzing and thinking about these things before he does it, because even in the comments, people are telling him, "You live in a glass house, don't throw stones." Your countless Chalcedonian Eastern Orthodox hierarchs have done much worse than this. And here's the crazy part: they're in Europe. They're doing it for fun, for free, like no pressure, nothing going on, and they're doing it willy-nilly. So His Holiness Mar Ephraim, this incident that Kai posted 10 years ago during the height of ISIS, His Holiness is in Syria. Everyone knows where he lives because he's in his see, the See of Antioch in Syria. And in the middle of ISIS, 10 years ago, they bring the Quran to him. They put it in his face on live television. What's he supposed to do? Do you think he's scared about his own life? I know him personally. Do you think he's scared about his own life? He's not. He's not scared about his own life. Who's going to get the backlash? Him or the whole community in Syria? He's the patriarch, not just of us. He's the patriarch in Syria. You think the Muslims know what denomination? These guys are Chalcedonians, these guys. They don't know. He's the patriarch in Syria. More Ephraim II is the patriarch. So when these guys, if he does anything, the community is gonna get it, not him. It's all gonna fall back on him. Everyone knows where he lives. Everyone knows his name. What's your name, Kai? Where do you live, Kai? Orthodox Shahada. What's your name? Where do you live? You're talking about the Patriarch of Antioch, who's in the middle of ISIS 10 years ago, at the height of that. And he's representing the whole community. That's way above our pay grade to judge, especially when your own hierarchs are doing it for free, for fun in Europe all the time.
I mean, first of all, there's also such a disconnect between the area where the faith first of all came into fruition at the very beginning, and the online converts who are not even ethnic Syriacs or whatever type of branch of Christianity, but the people who are there are more in community, more in love with each other, despite not being in communion. And those new converts here are like, no, we need to separate everybody. I'm like, you guys are delusional. You guys just came in. You guys, there. By the way, last March, I had the honor to go to Pro Oriente, which is a Roman Catholic initiative for the dialogue between the Oriental and Eastern Orthodox churches. And there was a Eastern Orthodox brother there in Turkey. And he told me that in his church, in their parish, they are sharing with the Armenians once a month. Like, they can work together at exactly the place where the faith came to be. And you right here online, completely disconnected from reality, are just like instigating vitriol among us.
Yeah,
like, really?
They're fanboys. They're like, the guys from like those movies where it has like nerds that like they push their glasses up, try to high five each other, and they miss the high fives, and then they start snorting when they laugh. This is not like, there's a difference between, this is real live orthodoxy that they're living and dying for. We've been dying for 2,000 years. No thanks to the other side. They were part of the ones who were killing us. For 2,000 years dying, and we're still here.
Yeah. And the patriarch, more Ignatius Ephraim, and he's amazing. He really is someone who looks after his own people. Like the recent political landscape of Syria, he really was there with his own people. Like, that's a shepherd. He's there with his people right there. That's what you want.
100%.
And also, the reason, the thing, when the very superficial way of looking at this whole discussion, it's a matter of terms, it's a matter of words. Now, what we need to understand is that what came about in the 5th century actually had a lot of big implication. I had 1.5 years ago, we had Christine Shiloh, someone who has studied this particular subject for 40 years. She knows this stuff on the back of her hand. And right next to me, somebody asked her, if Chalcedon would have happened, what would be in right now? She said that Constantinople would be here, Armenia would be here. The Muslims would not have had a slight of chance, because Chalcedon is what made the body of believers divided against each other. And what says our Lord? A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. And what happened? The rest of history happened. And also, one of our Armenian saints, in the first few pages of his book Against the Diophysites, Ananya Sahananitsi, here he says right here in the first few pages, the devil spoke at Chalcedon, the council that ruined the universe. So this is not a simple matter we're trying to talk about. Those who are Chalcedonian, by the way, Roman Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, whatever, already mentioned before, we are here to glorify Christ Jesus. But we're also trying to understand what happens and become better informed. And by becoming better informed, we can perhaps make better decisions, and especially not anathematize and instigate vitriol against the other churches, which Kai does, which Jediah does, etc. So,
yeah, it's sad that there are threats to all of us that are, like you say, the liberals or whoever, and then here we are fighting in a time machine. Um, and as far as our side goes, the Orthodox side, we are defending ourselves because we didn't even start. We had no online presence or putting out attacks or anything until series were made against us, and then we have to now reply to them.
Exactly. Yeah. That's all it is. So, Brother Agen, would you like to also elaborate on some stuff, brother?
Yeah, considering what Subdeacon just said, I think a lot of people need the context of how Oriental Orthodox apologists, started doing what they do online. Because we get this like negative, people speak about us negatively, especially from Kai and Dyer's side, where we just want attention. We're just here to play games and beat around the bush and quote mine. They don't understand the context for a lot of the stuff that's happened. Like we were just chilling, and then they started pumping out their things against us. All of a sudden we respond, and believe it or not, you guys can check out my channel. I have 2 streams right now to counter Dyer, Erhan, and Kai streams. Believe it or not, they got mad at me for responding. He said, "Why are you guys even responding yet? We haven't done our big arguments." So I told him, whatever you say out of your mouth against my church, I'm going to defend. I mean, that's not only is that human nature for any faith or religion, this is the Christian right. If someone is attacking the church, and I believe this is the fullness of the truth, I believe this is the church. Why are you getting mad at me for defending my church? It's the most normal thing. And we haven't even done it in a toxic way. We haven't, insulted. We haven't accused them of, being too stupid to understand the matter. We've been treating them as what they proclaim themselves as. We've been treating them as apologists, and we hope they treat us the same way, that we're trying to bear witness to the truth of Christ, even though we may be wrong, and we're willing to have discussions. And I'm willing to go on Dyer's streams, and what happens? I get blocked. Subdeacon is willing to debate them historically, and what happens? He says, "Oh, Subdeacon, he's an idiot. He's theologically illiterate." Like, it's just completely unchristlike. I don't understand where this enmity came from.
I don't either. I don't know why they're pricks to everyone. Everyone else can talk to each other normal. It's just these guys. But I want to go a little bit further back. So they would say that the series that they're making is a response to our series with Sam, but our series with Sam was a response to their series that they did years ago in the first place. Paul Ibrahim, Allah yarhamu, he's not dead, but Allah yarhamu in the general sense. May God give him a long life. A good friend of mine. Paul Ibrahim made a series, but he never put it out in response to their series, the original series. So then the series we did on Sam's channel, that was the response to their series. So they opened that. What do you want us to do? Not talk? We're going to defend ourselves.
I remember, I don't know if my followers remember, like 2.5 years ago, a couple of years ago, I already had Erhan on. Like, I already had those guys, and I had Erhan on twice. I had Dyer on. God bless you. I don't know how you say in Aramaic. Anyway, but the thing was, Jay came on when I had a stream with David Patrick Harry, and he was like, "But why are you inviting all these other Roman Catholics and Protestants?" And because people can be, first of all, cordial with each other despite not having the same position, and that's the genetic fallacy. The origin of the source has nothing to do if the information is true or false. And Jay is someone who was very keen on fallacies, but it's not weird that people who don't have the same theological position still can be cordial with each other and learn from each other, right? So why shouldn't it be possible for all walks of life in the Christian domain? Anyway. So what we're trying to do now is the claims that Kai has made. Kai of heterodox Shahada has opened up the gates if it comes to this whole discussion. And obviously, Brother Agen already has done a lot of sessions a couple months ago, responding to their long form, quote unquote, response of the series that our brother Subdeacon already has done. But also he says stuff like that. You guys wish that you were dhimmis under Islamic rule. Jay Dyer says that, for instance, right here, concerning the Coptic Martyrs. I don't know what happened. I don't call them martyrs any more than I call Hezbollah leaders a martyr. Like imagine if the martyrs of the Greek Orthodox during the Armenian genocide in 1915, if I would say that they would be martyrs just like the leaders of Boko Haram.
Yeah, we would never say it.
Serious. Come on.
We would never say it. And here's the thing. Like I said, he was on Piers Morgan. I was happy to see him on. Like, if I see these guys in the street, I'm going to greet them, I was happy to see him on there defending our general view. Ironically, they're the ones who have a female deacon in Africa, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. About blaspheming the martyrs, we're not the ones that they're going to have to answer to about that, unfortunately for them. The blood of the martyrs cries out to their Lord, and whether it happened or not, Oriental Orthodox people make fun of how small our church is. 100 million, I don't think is that small, but they make fun of how small it is. The good thing about being small is that we all know each other. We know the families. We know the families of the martyrs. We know the martyrs. We know all of this stuff is real, and we've been dying. We've been dying for 2,000. We have 2,000 years of martyrs, and stretching from the Old Testament, from Abel until now. So, Judgment Day is real. Heaven is real. God is real. Hell is real. So they're going to have to answer for the blasphemy. God have mercy on all of us.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say something in regards to the 21 martyrs. There was recently a priest. His name is Father Lazarus, and he's been doing a couple of podcasts with Roots of Faith. And he put it in a very beautiful way. And just seeing the comments on that and seeing, for example, how some people responded to Dyer on Twitter regarding the 21 Coptic martyrs, you'll find a lot of the anger people had towards Dyer wasn't mainly coming from the Oriental Orthodox, because we understand it's like Subdeacon said, like, we've been dying. You're not harming me by denying my saints. What you're doing is you're showing to the people around you truths about yourself more so than anything. You're showing that if you're going to this extent to say this about this specific group of people, just because you differ in the faith, it proves to your audience what type of, like Father Lazarus said, and forgive me, even he said, forgive me. It shows what type of Christ you have, and it's not the same Christ.
Amen. Amen. And first, what also I really do believe that the Oriental Orthodox Church is highly underrated and highly understudied. And a amazing point of advantage is that you have the element of surprise, right? So the historical arguments, the theological arguments, whatever, which you guys already are doing amazingly. So we are coming from an angle that they don't see coming. So hold on tight. My question to you guys is on the whole notion of apostolicity, apostolic succession, exclusivism. What is your, for instance, to you, Subdeacon, on the notion that we also have a exclusivistic position? For instance, Kai on his page has posted a video of the late Amba Bishoy Damiet, one of our primary amazing Oriental Orthodox theologians, who says that if you're not in the church, then you won't come into the kingdom of heaven. What are your thoughts on that? What is our position if it comes to apostolicity and exclusivism?
Yeah, and Bishoy, may his prayers be with us. I think this is the position of all the sides. If you belong to any of the claimants of the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church, because we all claim the same name, These are just Western naming conventions we use online for, or in English in the Western world, for people to know which one we're talking about, whether we say Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Assyrian Church of the East. But officially, each one actually believes herself to be the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church. And I don't think that there's anyone who is changing the official view on itself about that. I think the Roman Catholic Church views herself that way. Oriental Orthodox view herself that way, etc.
In regards to the strict sort of rigorism that people see when they're coming into apostolic churches, and they're curious, what does the Oriental Orthodox Church claim about itself? What does the Eastern Orthodox Church claim about itself? How do I find out the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church? The Bible puts it in a good way, and in an unexpected book at that. In the Song of Songs, in chapter 4, it speaks of the garden enclosed, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. The church was established. We know for sure it was established as a pillar of truth, and anyone outside of it is deviating. One thing you'll notice from the Oriental Orthodox, not just us, the online apologists, if we can even call ourselves that, we're not worthy to call ourselves that, but even from our hierarchs, we're enclosed, and because of this, we love you, and we want to bring you into this fold. What you'll find in the orthobrosphere, they're enclosing themselves to set up some sort of philosophical worldview that is able to tackle, other institutions. It's able to be some sort of a camp with weapons where we believe in this, you believe in that. We're going to talk about Pope Honorius. We're going to talk about Pope Vigilius. There's no papacy first millennium. We're going to refute Protestantism. It's just an camp they're building around themselves to exclude. Whereas our camp was established by the Lord. It was established, of course, there's no one holy Catholic Apostolic Church outside of us, but it's established in such a way so that we recognize it and we want to bring you in. We don't want to keep you out. And that's what I think the big difference, if you pay attention to how we go about representing our churches online.
I mean, and also this position, which we almost all of us also have, it cuts both ways. So if we can establish orthodoxy from our position, then ipso facto, Orthodox Shahada is not Orthodox, he's heterodox. That's the whole point of contention. So by your own standards or measurement that you judge and condemn others, calling them dhimmis and mocking them and everything else, once we establish that you are not the one who is sound in your own teaching, then you are the one who has fallen of grace, and you should repent, and you should show humility towards the Oriental Orthodox Church by definition.
What you said something earlier, Vartan, about you said they just got here. They're converts. They just got here. They don't know. That's 100% right, and the criticism on His Holiness proves it. Because if they felt any sort of kinship to their church, their own hierarchs, they wouldn't talk about ours, because they know that what theirs have done. And so, but the truth is that there is no connection between these online fanboys, keyboard warriors, and reality, the real imperial Byzantine church. Like, that is one thing, and then these kids fighting online is another thing. They don't know them personally, they don't care about them. They easily will condemn any one of their bishops. Just a kid online typing will condemn any one of their bishops like it's nothing. For us, we could never do it. Like when one of their priests criticized Dyer's Piers Morgan thing, one of the Greek priests. And then you have all of these lay kids fighting with the priest. That could never happen in Oriental Orthodoxy. Could never happen. Who has divine orders here? If one of our priests who has divine orders is saying something, we're not going to, even if we disagree with him, We're not going to disrespect him. That's it. He's a priest. I'm not. I'm a layperson. How am I going to talk to him like that?
It's verbal credence. It's like they're pointing the fingers towards Protestants, like you don't have any authority, you don't have a body that brings you all the way back to Jesus. But when push comes to shove, they're like completely doing the exact opposite they're trying to critique Protestants of.
Yeah, they're Protestant. They're Protestant, and they think that they just plugged in. They think it's Eastern. It's actually Western to us. It's not Eastern. So they're plugging in this stuff, but it's still a Protestant ethos that they have.
What you notice from their toxicity, you'll find when they go around, debating other groups, Black Hebrew Israelites, just random things, Gnostics, Protestants, you'll find they structure things somewhat logically. And that's what attracts a lot of people. But what a lot of people have been noticing from their side, like I saw some guy make a whole Reddit post on it. Why aren't they responding to the Oriental Orthodox this way? Why are they insulting? Why are they calling them onion heads? Why are they calling them dhimmis? When are they actually going to respond? Kai, when are you going to pick up your series? They've been asking these questions, and it's so clear. They've set up an institution around themselves, like I said. They've made some arguments similar to what we can make, intellectually critiquing different worldviews. But now that the real Orthodox Church has showed up, what have they resorted to doing? They've resorted to showing forth their toxicity, and it's revealed to how they even treat their hierarchs. It's like you guys said, they would never, if they really were representing Eastern Orthodox clergy and bishops, they would never say the things they're saying. But they've run out of arguments. They've run out of actual ways to make sense to their laity, these Oriental Orthodox or heterodox. They've run out of all of that. What do they resort to doing? Oh, they're stupid. Oh, they don't understand paradigms. They're quote mining. They're onion heads. Their patriarch kisses the Quran, whatever it may be. It just becomes unnecessary ad homs and no one's buying it. And because no one's buying it, they recognize that. And then they start to get insecure. Well, why isn't it working? It must be that the Orientals are deceiving them. They just start to demonize us further.
Exactly. I could not put it in better words than you did, brothers. You can be an Eastern Orthodox. You can listen to, for instance, someone like Kai. But what starts to happen is that they can smell the fear of Kai. Like every time when this particular discussion is brought up in JStream, whatever, it's like dismissed. We're like, yeah, we already debated him 5 years ago. Why should we debate him like 5 years ago? It's already like the letter to Successus and Tertium Quid and nothing else to look at here. I'm like, dude, there's a lot more than that you guys are not speaking about. And the general audience, they notice that, they can hear it, they can smell it. And every time when this particular subject is brought forth, what are they doing? They're like diverging and deflecting again. So is that confidence? If you are adamantly critiquing the Oriental Orthodox position, but you like scave away towards your paradigms because you don't want to address the historicity, which our poetry boy over here, Moshe Deacon, does so extremely well, then people can smell that, and people are going to look into our arguments, and they're going to reassess how they look at all of these positions, which is what we want in general. All we want is, first of all, give glory to the Lord and make people better informed. That's all it is. And people are willing to hear out both perspectives, knowingly that there is fruitful discussion. There's no contention, right? We share history in a particular sense. Like we also, first of all, need to give, as Paul says in 1 Timothy 5:17, give double honor towards your leaders. Like if those orthobros online doing as they do towards their own clergy, yeah, that's an issue. But people in general notice it. So all I see is that we just need to keep on charging forward. If you have the right information, then you are in formation. Then you are Orthodox.
Before they could try to pretend it wasn't a big deal. Their deflection at first was, it's just they're making a reappearance. We already dealt with all of this, but even the EOs they're not buying that. And if you pay attention to a lot of their comments, debate this guy, please. Debate this Oriental. He's been making some good arguments. How do you guys respond to this? Like, what we're telling you, they're starting to notice as well, Kai, Erhan, and Dyer, that this is a serious problem and they need to address it. And that's why enmity is growing further and further and further. And then when EOS come to look at our channel, they're expecting that same enmity backwards, but they don't find it. And that's where the conversion process starts to occur, where they start to actually, hey, why haven't I looked into this Apostolic Church? It has its own claims. Why should I just demonize them? I mean, they're presenting themselves at least moderately charitably. They're making good arguments. And glory be to God, the amount of people just coming in, sharing testimonies with me about entering catechisms and getting baptized, it's completely amazing. Glory to God. And thanks to Dyer and Kai, like, even Dyer, he was joking around saying, Pope Francis is the greatest Orthodox apologist, saying that Francis is bringing a lot of people, which is a very snaky thing to do. I'll say it to you. Thank you, Dyer and Kai, for bringing people into our church, because that's what you're doing. You're being an apologist. You're being a representative for our church. It's the same way Paul puts it, that Pharaoh was raised for this purpose, for the testimony of God. And Pharaoh is not a good guy. Pharaoh was attacking the Israelites, but God used him to bring people out of Egypt, to show forth the glory of God and his miracles to all of the land.
Vartan, when we're talking about, like, they always, it's usually you hear it from them saying things like, oh, like, you guys aren't big enough for us to debate you, or we don't want to waste our time with you. This is very, like, it's not just to us either, so it's not personal to us. They do it to the Catholics too. Like, Elijah Yassi's been trying to debate these guys forever. They won't debate him. But the thing is, they're looking at it as like, I'm bigger than you. I'm not going to lower myself and condescend.
Right.
And then this is a reflection on how the incarnation is viewed, because God condescended to us, right? It proves Miaphysitism, to be honest with you. But if we're isolating it into just morality, when we talk to the Catholics, that's not how the nobody's telling, oh, you're too small, you're too big. We talk like normal. Like, nobody's saying to the other side, this guy's too small to talk to, or we don't want to, whatever. Who's even, they want attention. We don't want attention. We didn't even want to be on. We just wanted to have these conversations because you brought it up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good. And Agen already said is that they at the moment when Agen was speaking to Jay on his critique against his position, they escaped. They just want attention. Like, Kai doesn't understand. We are not after Kai per se. It's not him as person we're after. Forget him. It's not about Kai. It's about bringing forward the substance that you are critiquing us with. Like, we don't care about the numbers. We don't care about, oh, we hope that a lot of people of their watch is going to watch us. Like, that's not what we're after. You understand it is that when people are using deceptive and deflective rhetoric, there's something in our nature that just goes like, nah, not on my watch. So it's not something about numbers. Forget the numbers. It's about integrity. And I know particularly of Jay that he has shifted of positions a couple times in his life. He became a Baptist Calvinist, then became Roman Catholic, then became Eastern Orthodox. It shows somewhat of a sign of humility, because if the information is presented towards himself, that he does something with it, which is a great sign, by the way. There's nothing unhealthy with reassessing positions, which is fine. But then our question is that the position that you have right now as a Chalcedonian, and that the information we are bringing forward towards your objections against us, what are you going to do now? Then the moment of his integrity is coming into question, of him and of Kai and of everybody else who is critiquing us adamantly and with vitriol like they do. Like, with the measure used against us will be used against you. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Can I say something on this point? Why is it that, like, people like Dyer, for example, you see them reassess different positions all the time, especially denomination hoppers, if you like pay attention on Twitter, going from this denomination to that denomination to that religion. The reason why Oriental Orthodoxy is the one church they treat with full contempt and don't even bother giving their, intellectual examination in. It's because they hate Jesus. It's the same reason Jesus was rejected in his time. In his time, why was Christ rejected? Well, they didn't like him. He wasn't the example. He wasn't the example they wanted. They wanted a tyrant. They wanted someone they could stand behind for this big movement. Dyer wants a philosophical worldview that he can sit on lives, hours, defending and building up an audience. People want all sorts of things, but nobody wants the humble church that was persecuted. Nobody wants the church that was scattered to the desert. Nobody wants the church that is being tormented by terrorists. I believe it. Believe me, I've been having these discussions with these Chalcedonians a lot of times, and if I demonstrate complete evidence to someone and I convince them, you know what they tell me? Church small, desert church.
Yeah, bro.
It's not an intellectual thing anymore. It's just it's a hatred.
Yeah, when Jesus came, the Jews didn't want him because he wasn't that king that they were looking for. These guys, they don't want the church, they want the king's church, the Melkite church.
They want the empire. That's how they're treating us right now. If you look at the way they're viewing us with the whole like, we're better than you, we're not going to condescend to your thing. This is a representation of the enmity they've had for our church for centuries, and it's being revealed in a very cowardly online way. Like before, they had some courage, some power to actually hold steadfast to that. Now it's just online, and they're keeping that same conqueror mentality. They're not keeping that mentality of a carpenter. They're not keeping that mentality of sending out fishermen. They're not keeping that mentality. They're holding fast to this mentality of, we were victorious. The Muslims, they did this and this to you. We're bigger. We had the empire backing us. We're not even going to look for a second into your church, no matter your arguments. It must be that you're reading our paradigm wrong and you guys are just coal mining. That's what it has to be. All the evidence you guys are showing, forget it. We're the church of the empire. We're never, ever, ever going to look at your non-quote unquote philosophically literate position.
Amen. And ironically, Jay also states that truth is not a matter of numbers, right? So Catholicity is not bound by, like, we have so many billions of people, millions of people. Like, I have a Bible verse, 1 Kings 19:18, in a particular moment in the Old Testament even, where the people of God in a particular place were all over the place. But God still says here, yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. So just for the sake of the 7,000 in that particular period who have not apostatized, God has still honored them. Hello, we are right now with 100 million. If it is the case for the 7,000 in that particular era, then it's also the case right now, right? So what has popularity? By the way, I don't want to go towards the martyrs complex position, or the Oriental Orthodox Church by far is the most persecuted. And if I was the devil, which church would I attack the most? The one with the truth, right? So numbers is not our point, because the Bible already said it's not about numbers. You guys are after about numbers. You guys are after about, look how glorious we are in this world. Listen up, buddy, we are not of this world, right? So anyway,
we don't have to clarify that. A lot of people think when we bring up this whole martyrs thing that it's a whole victim complex. That's not what it is at all. We're actually very proud for it. It's the identity of our church. It's been said in the early church. Alexandria, for example, like they're still all blood. They're all martyrs. This is our identity. That's why we keep bringing it up. We're not some group that's been victimized. Now we're saying, look at me, forget about all the metaphysics and church fathers, just look at me, time to convert, we're victims. That's not what we're doing at all. This is our identity. The faith that we have, I analogize it like a river of blood. The faith, you could think of it being put in a basket. For it to come from there to here, there must be a current, and that current is fed by blood. That's the analogy I give. The faith that we have deposited was communicated to us by blood, and that is our identity.
Yeah, when we see the martyrdoms, we see the 21 martyrs, we see the Ethiopian martyrs, Armenian, Syriac. When we see our martyrs, we don't see it when it's happening, we don't see it, oh, feel sorry for us. Everyone be. We look at the martyrs and we're proud of them. They're our champions. Like it's like a huge. It's a crown, like Stephen's name. Yeah, he was the first martyr. It's a crown. Like this is us. It's nothing that we need. We don't need anyone to recognize it or not recognize it because it's objective fact. So, and again, Judgment Day is real.
Thank you. So I have here a segment of look what this guy's. The Alpha sites are kuffars. That's not the direction I was after, but thank you for your comment. Anyway, let's just see here what Kai and Jay have to say here.
The chat.
Bring it.
So, also, will there be a debate with the Orientals? Look, guys, David debated all the Orientals like 5 years ago. You can go to David's channel. He has a whole playlist where he debates with all those guys.
Okay, but still, Jay has also debated a couple years ago with Roman Catholics, Protestants, but still, yet again, he also debates them again and again.
So David Erhan debated Severin Zealot, which I co-modded. He debated Paul Ibrahim, which I co-modded. The first one I co-modded with Lewis, the second one with Craig. And then there was a discussion, just me, by myself, with Craig and Erhan at the same time. Go watch that one, Jay Dyer.
Guys, and we're not going to repeat the debates. We're going to do another installment of the critiquing the Orientals. Kai, could you give us an update on what the next in that series is going to be?
Oh, it's been a while since I looked at it. I think what I had lined up is we're going to look at what composite hypostasis means, the composite language when it's applied to Christ. How do we understand that? What is actually composite? And also start looking at the essence energies. What exactly is the energies doctrine? Why is it relevant? Why is it central to Christology? Because a lot of people don't actually understand its Christological impacts. They will see the essence energies distinction as really more of just kind of the way God interacts with creation, if you will, in a very kind of limited scope of understanding the essence energies doctrine, but it has very massive implications on a Christological level for the person of Christ, and it ties into the whole composite Christ question. So that's, I think, what I have lined up for the next installment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which will be in 2035. He was married, I can understand it, but anyway. You guys wanted to react on this particular section, brothers?
Agen.
Agen has some audio issues, I think.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't. We put out that series with Sam Vartan. I think it was 2023, 4, something like that, right?
24, yeah.
24.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was if we did it 2024, I think it was early 2024. I don't think it was, from what I remember. It was, they had a lot of time, and Kai says there was something between him and Sam where Sam kept pushing it. Whatever, I don't know what happened with that, but it doesn't matter because one time Sam, so our series was supposed to go 10 episodes. We had 8 of them on Sam. The 9th one, we had a schedule and we were there waiting for the link, and he got caught up with something. I don't even know what happened with that. So we did the 9th one on the Lions Den on my channel. So why couldn't they do that? Why they keep waiting? You could put it out. You made a series. By the way, the series that they're doing, they did, I think, 2 parts. None of that answers anything we put. None of it. And they said, they're like, we're not going to answer what they put on Sam. Then what are you doing the series for? If you're not going to reply. What are you guys just talking to yourselves like echo chamber in a cave? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
That's not a discussion anymore. Anyway.
You're right.
Not repenting at Chalcedon.
Wait.
And Theodore
Barton,
Kakish wants a
I
debate with.
think Agen is waiting in the.
Oh wait, huh? Oh wait, my bad, brother Agen. Agen, can you hear us, brother? Wait, Agen. That's weird. I have him in, but okay, he'll come back in a second. No issues. Anyway,
Kai on Ibis's letter to channels, and that's why we're not
here it is.
going to give it to you. However, Kai is probably open to eventually doing debates. At least that's what he seems to be saying. Yako says to you, Kai, for $7.99, Daniel Kakish wants a debate with Kai on Ibis's letter to Mari and Theodoret not repenting at Chalcedon. And he wants to talk about Ephesus and the apparitions.
Kakish is not worth my time. This guy, I have talked with him behind the scenes. I have been on friendly terms with him up to a point for quite some time. He is not theologically literate. Okay. He approaches.
Didn't he already debate David?
I don't know if Kakish did. Maybe he did. I don't really.
Or maybe he was just there in the debate.
Or maybe he was just there. I don't know. But Kakish will openly admit that he approaches things from a historical point of view. He wants to look at things historically. Okay. That is not really my avenue. That is not where I look with regards to my argumentations, with regards to understanding.
You mind if you pause here? I think it's important that we'll miss out. If you just were to watch the stream,
your mic is cutting in and out.
It's a little bit choppy, brother.
Be good now. Regards to what you hear from Kai, if you just were to list
Agen,
the mic, and we can never get away from the technical difficulties of Oriental. Since I have an online presence until now, it's never ended. We've always had technical problems.
Somebody, Arsenius said, $500 mic down the drain. I don't know. Do you use $500 mics?
You know why? It's because technology is an innovation. That's why we're Orthodox.
No issue. We'll wait until. Okay. There he is.
Streaming site keeps disconnecting.
Yeah, it's cut me out like 5 times now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you were to watch what Kai was saying, just uncut, he's talking about paradigms, and he's saying, look, this could take 1 or 2 years. We don't know. We don't want to educate them. We're going to talk about paradigms. And then right after is when this, I think God planned this. Just magically, the message from Subdeacon comes, and all of a sudden, oh, history isn't my thing. Well, then how the hell do you get your paradigms? Where do you get it from? If paradigms are what is preventing this discussion, and that's what you're trying to narrow down in your streams, and you said it's so complex, it can take 1 or 2 years. How is history not your thing? Where are you getting your doctrines informed from? And it's just, if you were just watch this and you just paid attention for this specific moment, you'll see they really have nothing. When I was disconnecting in and out, I heard Subdeacon at least say, if you're not responding to us, what are you doing? I think I have the answer for that, Subdeacon. It's pretty clear what they're doing. It's brainwashing, and they don't know how to do it yet. They need a way in order to find some type of reading, whether it may be anachronistic or not anachronistic. They need some way to read St. Cyril that does not contradict their canons, councils, and minutes. That's it. That's what they're looking for. And that's what's taking this it could take 1 or 2 years. We'll debate them eventually. That's what they said months ago, too. When I challenged them, they said, we'll get to them. They'll have their day, but not this system. Talking about the ACO. He said, what are you talking about? Why
Again,
Or
my apologies for interrupting. The audio was great for the first couple of minutes, but
And then right at the end, the rapture happened on your mic, bro.
yeah. Don't leave us.
I'm gonna Trump to say I'm connected.
But still, 100%. First of all, how can you actually argue from paradigms without the historic reception? That's like, I can understand that there are multiple dimensions of a topic like Christology or the Trinity. I can understand that, but if you are so adamant in your exclusivism against the Oriental Orthodox, calling us monkificites, whatever, you better be using the whole all of the dimensions of this particular one subject. How is it possible that paradigmatic style of argumentation which you prefer tops the historic arguments? How is that even possible? Like, how do you get those paradigmatic argumentation from the historic church, right?
Yeah, I think Agen made a very good point. He said, what are your paradigms based on? Like, aren't they not based on history? So when you're talking about debating paradigms, what's your basis for the paradigm? Is it not history? Or where does it come from?
My style of critique would also be, Kai, if you would debate the Roman Catholics, for instance, if you would debate the Filioque, or if you would debate papal supremacy, are you also arguing from paradigms? Are you also going towards a cohesive metaphysical position in order how to argue them? Like, if it comes to the if you want to dunk on Roman Catholics, you would use historicity, right? But if it comes to Oriental Orthodox, nah, let's use abstract paradigms. Yeah, that makes no sense. So one of the prime critiquer of Oriental Orthodox is using abstract paradigms as his avenue of critiquing the Oriental Orthodox. And he also explicitly says right here, I do not even bother reading those. The question which the brother was reading was the letter of Ibas to Martyrs at Chalcedon, okay, which is something he does not want to deal right now. He wants to speak about paradigms. Okay, so if historic reception is not safeguarded, then Protestantism wins. Then Jehovah's Witnesses win. Then Unitarians win. Mormons win. So this is just Protestantism in a Byzantine flavor. Like, you as an Orthodox are supposed to build upon the church that was set up by Christ and the apostles. You cannot use a paradigmatic system and look like, oh, this shouldn't be more cohesive in all the particular church fathers. That's not how stuff works, brother. You should build upon the church that came before you, not just post-Chalcedonian synthesis projecting into Saint Cyril or the Cappadocians or Nicaea or whatever. That's not how we do patristics or theology.
Exactly.
Agen. Oh, wait, he left. Oh, goodness. Anyway. Let me see. I also had. Anyway, so I'm very curious if there are people of Chalcedonian aspect who do argue from the historic aspects, who would argue against the letter of Ibas to Martyrs or Constantinople II. He also cited Constantinople II. He says that, oh, but the Nestorians didn't accept it. But wait a second. Now you're going towards the ecumenical councils, but you reject Chalcedon when it condemns you. How is that possible?
Okay. Constantinople II. What do you do if you have an ecumenical council and you have canonized saints who you venerate who explicitly condemn that same council? Like Isidore of Seville, Colombo, forgot his name. These guys condemn Constantinople II, and they're canonized. And Gregory of Rome, who they call Gregory the Great, in the early 7th century. That's true. I agree. Late 6th. Gregory, when he's recounting the ecumenical councils, he only gives 4. Why the hesitation with the 5th? Because it contradicts Chalcedon. And to say it doesn't is a revisionism.
Mhm.
How do we know? Because of the conversations of the 530s, which he says, I don't get into that historical detail. It's not important to me. Like that's what do you mean? How do we know truth then? How do we know truth if we don't read this stuff and we don't know which side is which? But because and forgive me if I'm wrong and I'm assuming intent and whatever, but Kai, because he's a Serb, and I actually like the Serbs. The Serbs here where I live, they're very nice to us. We have very good relations with them. The Serbian church, they used to let us use their building before we had our own. But he's a Serb, and as a Slav, he needs their choice in history because he's a romanticist. Oh yeah, see there, that too. He's a romanticist, so he needs their trajectory in history of choosing the correct. It's another one. Choice with that to be right. And therefore, it doesn't matter what history says. It doesn't matter what Cyril meant. It doesn't matter what Cyril's handpicked successor meant, or the synod of bishops that Cyril was in, that his handpicked successor inherited from him. All of that doesn't matter to Kai.
Yeah. Imagine that this is your avenue of critique towards us. Paradigms, which is his catchword now. Paradigms.
Paradigms in a vacuum. It's not even
Exactly.
paradigms in like a historical context. It's in a vacuum.
Yeah, and he also said that the Arians argued from scripture, but the Cappadocians argued from paradigms. First of all, the Cappadocians, they argued from the historic precedent that came before them.
Mhm.
Which church father says, forget the councils and the reception, just argue from cohesive paradigms? Which canon or church father or council says that? So, and by the way, if Kai is citing pre-Nicene church fathers to make a case for the Trinity, he has destroyed his own methodology. So if that's the tactic that you're using right now, you've destroyed your own methodology against us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know if this is real to him or if he just wants it to be real so he could sleep at night. I don't know, but I know again, Judgment Day is real. You're gonna have to answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if the two-natured diathylite mic of Agen is now right now working.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It seems to be a server thing. My mic is checking out. My Wi-Fi is checking out.
Okay. You sound perfect.
Yeah. It might disconnect me randomly. It's just been doing that. But I did hear in regards to like how they're treating this whole paradigm in a vacuum thing. And I'll try to keep this quick so I don't disappear. They said how they're going to do it. Like they revealed their plan on the stream. We're going to talk about the ACOE for God knows what. Once you guys understand the mistakes of the ACOE that we want you to believe, then we're going to apply that critique to the Oriental Orthodox. And he said it in such a angering way. Like it really made me mad. He said, you Orientals will have your day. I can't comprehend what that even means. What does that even entail? Why is the title of your stream 6 hours plus called Refuting Oriental Orthodoxy? It really doesn't make sense. And the only thing that makes sense about this whole thing is that it's a brainwashing attempt to convince their viewers. What it looks like is that the first stream they tried to pump out arguments. They realized that didn't work from the response that me and Agen gave. And then from there are trying to shift, well, you have to read Chalcedon in light of Constantinople II. Not just that, you have to read it in light of how we read Constantinople II, and then impose that understanding back onto Chalcedon. They don't care about history. They're completely fine with being anachronistic as long as they set up a philosophical worldview that is able to answer the doubts of their loyal laity.
You know, this thing, you guys are gonna have your day. You know, we've been hearing this forever. From thousands of years we've been hearing اليوم السبت بكرة الأحد اليوم السبت باكر الأحد. We've been hearing it. We're still waiting. We're still here. They've been telling us we're gonna come get you. We're gonna come get you for thousands of years. You think you're the first one, Kai?
Mhm. And also, wouldn't Kai critique the Thomists of their metaphysics again, that their metaphysics bypasses the Old Testament theophanies? The historic theophanies, by the way, because we believe, because you have an historic faith, the Bible is history. The church fathers and councils are history, right?
Not
So
even
we
that.
were not.
Not even that. If you hear Dyer explicitly, he does make that argument, but he also says it contradicts the historical precedents of the Cappadocians. So he's basically his refutation to the whole Thomistic schema is it is ahistorical. But now all of a sudden, when they want to talk about paradigms and schema, oh, history isn't my avenue. But sorry, keep going. You were going on to somewhere very good.
No, that was exactly what I was going towards, because Kai would critique scholastic innovations, but he's also setting up scholastic innovations in a Byzantine style. That's all it is, because he's doing the exact same thing which he is critiquing.
And Reformed style Calvinist.
The Protestants would be proud of him. The Reformers would be exactly proud, because the Protestants, they have a catchphrase called exegesis instead of the church fathers. The Mormons, they have revelation instead of, and now he has paradigms all of a sudden. So you are in the exact same boat of all those other restorationist heretics. Congratulations. That's your line of argumentation against the Oriental Orthodox. Like, people need to understand if go ahead, Brother Agen. Go ahead.
I was gonna just say, think about it from an outside perspective. Like Subdeacon always says, you have no horse in the race. Is that you're saying, Subdeacon? You have no horse in the race. You're just looking at it from the outside. Even when we are epistemically justified to say, shut up, Kai, we're not going to play your game. We're not going to do this whole paradigm thing. What have we responded with? Oh, okay, Kai, let's debate 1v3. I'll offer a debate. Let's talk about paradigms. Let's talk about metaphysics. You know what? I'll play your game. Let's not talk about history. Let's get on a metaphysical showdown and let's do it. When I have every right to say, oh, by the way, you're epistemically unjustified in speaking this way, Kai. That's not how it works. I'm completely fine with saying that. I actually have the right to. But just look at it from the outside. I am willing. I issued a 1 versus 3 debate, and they have no excuse. If their excuse against Subdeacon was, oh, he doesn't know theology, he just knows history. When I offer a 1v3 on what you want to talk about, you should have no reason to reject it. And they saw it. They did a community post the next day saying, oh, we didn't quit our series. Then somebody brought it up. I saw screenshots directly to Kai, ignored. They were having a full discussion. He mentions Agen issued a 1v3, discussion dies, just stops. It's completely sad and embarrassing.
For all the Chalcedonians, lovely brothers and sisters, don't forget that. If Jay ever does a stream again, or Kai ever does a post or whatever, ask the questions that we're asking now. Isn't it fair to have answers to these particular questions? Right? So if they dismiss it, that needs to tell you something. So the arguments that Agen is using, my brother, Subdeacon Daniel, the only thing he does, he goes to this, he opens it and he reads it. Nothing special, with all the respect, Shamosha, but you know what I'm trying to say? There's nothing, we are just telling you what's in here. Shamosha, the best argument against Chalcedon is Chalcedon itself. Ask them those. Why is this in here?
Yeah, bro, I tell them, please go read your councils. They tell me we don't need to.
Yeah. You're not the only one who has books, Kai. Anyway. Anyway, I got a stack of books only on Christology, so we're good for now. Anyway. So yeah, there's also another video of. Let's see if my screen wants to share. Here we have Dr. Peter Butinev. Peter Butinev is a professor at Vladimir's seminary. He was a Chalcedonian. He is obviously highly erudite in the whole discussion of what you're going to talk about right here. So let me see.
A different question. And once we care enough to drill deeper into what he actually meant, then, some of the leading patristic scholars we have all agree. Meyendorff, Lauf, Baer, Gallitzin, all agree that Severus was teaching the same thing as Cyril of Alexandria. So that's a new insight, I think, that we do well to learn from.
Bomboklat. What does it tell you?
Yeah, I always name drop these guys, Baer and Dragas. Even McGuckin at the end changed. If you watch he has a lecture. I think it's at Vladimir's, and his intro to the Unity of Christ, SVS, for Saint Cyril. Like all of these guys, they're big names. They don't agree with them.
Yeah,
I always say to any Chalcedonian, because they notice I'm constantly citing Maximus, John of Damascus, Justinian, their canons, their whatever. I'm constantly citing the other side whenever I make my case. So they feel compelled, which is fine. They're welcome to do that. They feel compelled. All right, my turn to do that on Severus. I always say every single time, show me your issue with Severus. I'll show you Cyril saying the exact same thing. Not one of them has failed to actually try and surpass this challenge. Not one of them. Every issue they have with Severus is said by Cyril. Every single thing that Severus says they disagree with, I can show it to you in Cyril. And that's why mostly, and believe it or not, a lot of Chalcedonians I speak to, they'll say, Severus is Orthodox within his own paradigm, and that's what's wrong. It's not that Severus has any heresy of his own. It's just, he's adopting Neoplatonic Aristotelian schemas. So even if Miaphysitism works under that worldview, he might be Orthodox in that sense, but what's heterodox about him is he's adopting this wrong worldview. So they concede he's Orthodox, and I get some more even worse things they tell me. They tell me, you know what? I don't see an issue with Severian Miaphysitism as you define it. I think that's the same thing as Daophysitism, but Severus is a heretic conciliarly because he rejects Chalcedon. You should not be hearing these admissions if we're the false church. I'm going to say that as is. If scholars are telling you Severus is the same as Cyril, if your own Eastern Orthodox are telling you Severus is Orthodox within his own paradigm, and you're even here further, Severus is Orthodox, period, his Miaphysitism is just Diophysitism, you have a big issue on your hands.
Mm-hmm. And I know personally, EOs will read Severus. I know them, like in real life. They read Severus, and then they start calling him Saint Severus. Even Erhan, not the Saint Severus part, but even Erhan he read Severus, and then he starts using Severus. He uses him as like Orthodox, but he just doesn't give him credit. He doesn't say, "Oh, I got this from Severus." Like he used the walking on the water.
Yeah, exactly.
He used it.
Yeah.
Against the Church of the East. Severus said that, and you know it because you've read Severus, Erhan. So, but I know in real life EOs who've read Severus and then they start calling him Saint Severus.
Let's listen to Dr. Peter Bufnev.
This is why he can say things like, I thirst, I hunger, ask where Lazarus is laid, etc. Miaphysite now comes into play as a much more accurate term to describe the non-heretical Monophysites.
Boom. Non-heretical. What was that?
Why Miaphysite? Well, because it follows Saint Cyril of Alexandria's formula. Saint Cyril was a Miaphysite.
Boom. What was that? Saint Cyril was a?
Saint Cyril was a Miaphysite. He taught.
But wait, Miaphysitism is Monophysitism, right, Kai?
Look,
Right.
you're doing a word concept fallacy, see?
He has more books than Kai does.
Argument dismissed. Yeah. Then we have here 2638. Let me see, 2638. There we go.
For our adherence to Chalcedon, and therefore we are Diophysites who admit Miaphysite formulations as well, because we also believe in the fifth ecumenical council. Sorry, is that a long kind of answer to your question? No. Yeah.
Anyway, so just solid contemporary Chalcedonian scholars, like all of them already are admitting. Like, come on, dudes. Drop it, man. Anyway.
The only response to this is really what they've been saying and not giving evidence for. They've said it, I think, 3 times consecutively on their past streams. The Apostolic Christianity stream, and the 2 streams they did. Word concept fallacy, you guys need to read in context. That's it. We're waiting. We're waiting for the context. We're waiting for the concepts that we're missing out on, that we just missed out on for 2,000 years and we've never heard before. Please inform us. You know, one of the things I said in one of my videos, when I made the video, Cyril's not a Diophysite, I said, I could have just accused you guys of quote mining and I would have been correct. But pay attention to how I'm taking each of their quotes, putting it in context and responding it. Please do the same to me. And it's completely reasonable. Look, if let's say, hypothetically, we've just been quote mining. We might have actually been wrong. Let's say hypothetically, which is impossible. But let's say we were just wrong about the Christology the whole time. Do you not have the right to inform us on why? Or are you just going to say we're wrong just because? Please tell us. What exactly have we read wrongly? Please tell us. Inform us. How is Cyril a Diophysite? Why is it that the false church is able to respond to your quote-unquote quote minds, but the true church, the true communion, has failed and is not even bothering to do it and saying, just give us a year, give us 2 years. We don't know how long it will take. Just be patient. You guys can do your little refutation streams and think you guys are refuting us. Forget it. We'll get to it eventually. We've been waiting. And as long as you keep making this excuse, and I'm not saying this to be toxic. I'm not saying this to be, provocative. I'm telling you the reality because it's already happening. People will flock and leave your church in droves. And it's been happening, at least in the online presence, in such a weird way that they all have the same reasons for leaving. You guys, you Oriental Orthodox, you guys are making arguments. They're not responding to it. How am I supposed to know the truth? If you guys are right, Chalcedonians, let's say the 0.001% chance you've got it right, you guys are doing a very bad job now. And I'm telling you that as an honest person. Please show us where we're wrong. I'm patient. I've been waiting. How long have you been waiting, Subdeacon? Because I'm new to the scene. How long have you been waiting? Let me ask that.
Well, let me tell you this. I wasn't born in the Orthodox Church like Agen was. So I had, like Agen quoted earlier, no horse in the race, right? I'm looking at this. I have options. I'm visiting the churches. I'm trying to find the truth. I don't have anybody who's OO. I don't know any Oriental Orthodox in my life. No one's talking to me from them. I literally, I've never met one before. So all I know is that my dad's, family are Rum, EO, and my mom's are Uniates, so Chaldean Catholic. And then I have everything in between. I got to OO because of Elijah Yassi. Just kidding. Kind of. But I got to OO because when I was reading the councils, and then I read Ephesus, and then I read Chalcedon, and I'm like, this is the opposite team here. I can't be true to what I understand and go there. That's a long story short. So I've been waiting to answer your question again since then, and this is 12 years ago, maybe longer.
Yeah.
It's like you said, they have to psych themselves out. Sorry, Vartan, for cutting you.
Nope,
Just
go
to
on,
say
no
this quick
problem.
point. They have to psych themselves out. It's like literally, you said it in a very beautiful way when I had you on my channel, Subdeacon. The guys who won in 431 lost in 451. The guys who lost in 431 won in 451. Just from a historical perspective, they have a lot of work to do. And they tried. They tried in Constantinople too. Like that was, think about it. I always tell inquirers, you had the first three councils. You got a hero, you got a villain, you got, Athanasius, Arius. You got the Macedonian heresy, the Apollinarian heresy, it's condemned. You get the Nestorian heresy, it's condemned. Let's say I'll be nice. You have the Eutychian heresy at Chalcedon, and then it's condemned. Let's say I'd be nice and grant that. That's not the case, but let's say I say that. For the first time in Christian history, you convened a council to talk about the past. And what I mean by that is revising the past. Remember that letter of Ebos at Chalcedon? Oh yeah, here's what we think about it. Remember Theodore of Mopsuestia, who was in that letter of Ebos? Yeah, this is what we really think. Remember Theodoret, who Pope Leo wrote to after Chalcedon and said, defend the faith. And Theodoret, that guy who was exonerated at Chalcedon, this is what we really think about him. You guys know how Nestorius accepted Chalcedon? Here's what we really think about him. It's revision, and it's the first time in Christian history. Just look at in order of the councils. You got one, Council 1 talks about this. Council 2 talks about this. Council 3 talks about this. Even hypothetically, Council 4 talks about this. Council 5 should put an alarm on your head. This is revision. It should freak you out. It really is. Historically, the losers of 431 win at 451. The winners at 431 lose at 451. That's historically what happens, and that's why they're taking a year or two to psych themselves out and create a religion from scratch. They think that Constantinople II sets the precedent, but even they know Constantinople II failed in revising this. It failed in psyching out the Chalcedonians.
Here's the kind of detail, Vartan, that Kai doesn't think is important. In the 530s, there's already a parallel patriarch in Antioch that they've created, and the real patriarch, Severus, is in exile in Egypt. Me, as an Oriental Orthodox subdeacon, you could say, oh, well, he just said that in a biased way because he said the real one. But the reason why I say it as a matter of fact, as a student of history, because Justinian himself, the emperor who's canonized by them, calls Severus in the 530s patriarch.
He knows who's the boss. He knows who's the boss.
That tells you who Justinian thought was the real patriarch, and you canonize it.
I mean, and also on the whole notion of being biased. Like, I am an Armenian. You are a Suryoyo. Agen is a Coptic. You would say, like, oh, you guys are just nationalists. The only reason why you guys are Oriental Orthodox because you were born into it. Like, first of all, the fact that we are born into the church doesn't matter if that's true or false. The fact that we are in it is just a nice bonus. But you can't, like, I have been reading Leontius of Byzantium. I have been reading John of Damascus. I have read Palamas. I have read Maximus the Confessor. I have read the post-Chalcedonian saints, not in detail. I'm not obviously a scholar like Peter Boutner, for instance, but I am familiar with the Chalcedonian propositions. The only thing that has been going on is that the historical evidence, the historic evidence, not paradigmatic evidence, just didn't jive together with those propositions. So you can't tell me, like, oh, what the only reason why you're Oriental Orthodox because you're a nationalist. Come on, dude. You can't be serious. Yeah. You can't bring
anybody's the nationalist in this whole thing. It's Kai. Kai is the nationalist.
Yeah. If I can say something about myself, the first Chalcedonian, like, apologetics I started with, and it's very funny when I look back in retrospect, and even the Chalcedonians, like, they find it a funny joke. The first, like, things I would say about Chalcedon, oh, we just believe in the same thing. Like, that's how I started out. That's really how I started my apologetic. I said, we believe in the same thing. I love you guys. We should reunite. It was a language issue. That's how I started. I didn't start, Alexandria, the mother of the world. That's not how I started. I really, truly started loving your church. That's how I started. If you just see me attacking Chalcedon now, it should tell you. It has nothing to do with any preconceived bias. It has to do with the fact I read your fathers, I read your councils, and I recanted. That's what happened to me.
Yeah,
I didn't start
and learned and came to that conclusion.
Absolutely. And then think about how they start attacking Oriental Orthodox. Why did they start? Because they built an online religion, and now we're the new contender. And now they have to respond to us. They've been talking against Protestants. They've been talking about Roman Catholics. They've been, making arguments against atheists about tag and talking about Vigilius and Honorius. They've set up an online religion, and now we're the new faces on the street, and people are asking questions. How are we going to respond? That's not how any of us started. Subdeacon wasn't even born into this church. You found it. I started believing it was all semantics. I didn't even know, just to put this in perspective, 2022, when Subdeacon was doing apologetics, I didn't even know there was a division. That's how ignorant I was. That's how ignorant I was. I didn't even know there was a division in the church. I was just minding my business. I came into this thinking we were all the same thing. I was so happy to have Chalcedonian friends and Eastern Orthodox friends. And look what happened in just me picking up the books.
Yeah. There you go. But also his style of critiquing of paradigms. There it goes again, paradigms. Which synod or which patriarch has checked that off? Like, okay, that is a way of critiquing the Oriental Orthodox. How?
See, that's a good point, Vartan, is that you're appealing to authority. But the problem is, like Agen just said, he said it's an online religion. And why is that important? And how do we know it's true that what Agen said? That's an online? Because look at when there's clergy from their own who disagree with them, their reaction to the clergy, as if what they have is divinely instituted, not the clergy. And I'm saying that in comparison, if we did that, because we believe our clergy are divinely instituted, so we can't react this way. So then for you, Vartan, to appeal to an authority that Kai needs to think about, the problem is this is an online religion. This isn't something that exists in reality with parishes and authority and submission.
It's like the fathers, they critique Gnosticism, not in order to see that become again in a Byzantine aesthetics. Again, like Christ set up a physical church, right? Not again for you in your glorified state of paradigms and metaphysical grids, and it needs to fit in this particular sense and all that type of stuff. Then you're completely disconnected. Like, if you want to argue against us, that's fine, but at least in your own paradigm, again, be consistent. Which synod or which patriarch or which bishop, whatever, has checked it for you that the way you critique us should go by paradigms, that you could deflect from the historic reception of Chalcedon or the letter of Ibas or whatever. Like, you are innovating within your own system against us because you don't want to deal with the history. You don't want to deal with this type of stuff. He explicitly says, I don't even bother reading into it. Imagine saying this about your own council, defending it as if the Holy Spirit has spoken at your own council. I am not even bothered reading into it. Come on.
Shameful. Yeah. I asked them before. Let's pretend like we shouldn't quote mine. They call it quote mine. Let's pretend that's actually the way we go about. We just don't read anything. How the hell am I supposed to know my position, and how are you supposed to know yours? It's from the primary sources. The reason you're defending Chalcedon, why, is because the creed says two natures after the union. The reason why I'm defending Miaphysitism is because Cyril said there's one incarnate nature of the word, there's not two after the union. To even know what it is I affirm and what it is you affirm has to come from a document that was written in a historical time period. It didn't just fall out of the sky for you. They've even conceded on their streams, the early church, they taught, one substance in Christ. Something they indirectly conceded that. Then said, under that Aristotelian framework, two natures is impossible. So that's why Constantinople II is convened. How do you not see the issue with that? Even going with their whole paradigm thing, where we have to read Chalcedon in light of Constantinople II. Even in light of that, how do you not see the issue? You're supposed to pick up historical documents to inform your historical position. It's what you've held and preserved and they've preserved it very poorly, as me and Subdeacon have proved in both of our channels respectively. What you're supposed to hold as a diophysite, you get it from your historical councils, from your historical authors. And where do you learn about your historical councils and authors? In written texts. So when you get mad at me for quoting, you just undermined your entire position. What are you trying to defend?
But on that, if I may ask you brothers, what is the difference between a quote mine and not a quote mine or a florilegium? Like, what, for the people who don't know, if we cite something, what is the difference?
Here's the difference. The difference is when they post it, it's a quote. When we post it, it's a quote mine.
That's the difference. Okay.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And they basically, to convince their audience, and it's kind of a convincing polemic, they'll say, think about the Roman Catholic quote mines, right? That's what they say. Think about the Roman Catholic quote mines. And I'm going to say something a lot of EOs, and me and Subdeacon share this opinion together. A lot of EOs will never expect any of us to say, and it's like you said at the beginning of the stream, Vartan, be ready because we're coming from a completely different perspective. Your guys' is papal quote mines. The reason why EOs discard it is because they say, oh, well, here the papacy is condemned, so I must read these quotes where the papacy is being affirmed in light of this, because we're the one true church. We have, consistency. That doesn't work. Believe it or not, the papal quote mines the EOs are crying about have truth to them. Whoa, what do you mean, Agen? What I mean by that is the papacy, it actually has evidence posterior to Chalcedon. It was actually being used to justify Chalcedon. So what they try to do for their audience is saying the same way the Orientals are citing stuff is the same way the Roman Catholics are citing stuff. If it is the case that that papacy is false because we can demonstrate it, that means that the quotes that they cite for the papacy are false. So the same applies to Oriental Orthodoxy. Because we're true, they must be quote mining. They presuppose that because that's how it worked for the papacy. Well, guess what? You're not free from the quote-unquote papal quote mines as well. Posterior to Chalcedon, you can't assume consistency. You guys have inconsistency. So you actually have, believe it or not, you have to treat every quote as a piece of argument that either proves your case or rejects it. You have to go into the primary sources and prove it's a quote mine. You can't just presuppose it and tell your audience, it's just like the papal quote mines. You have to actually be consistent. The papacy has evidence posterior to Chalcedon. And guess what? Miaphysitism was the faith prior to Chalcedon. They're afraid of opening the books.
By the way, if it comes to our own Miaphysite theologians and saints, I have here, I showed before, Ananya Sanahnitsi, Word of Objection Against the Diaphysites. I have here Gosrovik Tartmanich, Dogmatic Works, 9th century, 11th century. And I have here, of course, Gregory of Tatev, Book of Questions, all of them extensively against the Diaphysites cite the Cappadocians. They know where to find the letter to Cladonius. They know where to find Basil. They go towards Dionysius the Areopagite. Like, how is it possible that that stream of wisdom that flowed from the ecumenical councils towards our churches, all of them affirm in continuity with what St. Cyril said? Why didn't we historically receive Chalcedon? Because it wasn't consistent with what came before. How is it ecumenical if not the Kataholos is agreeing with it? So the Armenians, they know where to find their argumentation against the Diaphysites. Anyway. And also this whole notion of becoming more clear, it became more clarified. My question to you is, we know that the four terms, phusis, ousia, prosopon, and hypostasis, in the Chalcedonian schema, those four words imploded in two, right? My question to them would be, in order for language to become more clear, do the terms become more distinct, or are they imploded into each other? Do they collapse into each other? So, for instance, the word man or the word woman, they have each of their own distinctive meanings, right? If you collapse them into each other, which those modern transgenders are using, that there's no man, there's no female, is there a clarification or is there a confusion? There's a confusion. Then by that standard, by imploding those words, which the historic church has used, how is Chalcedonianism a form of clarification for us? And that you post-Chalcedon are telling us, no, you can't use that word in that way. You should need to use this word in this way. How can we have a dialogue when we cannot, do not let the other define the terms in which you discuss the whole subject? How is that even possible?
It was
Yeah.
such a clear and needed council that they needed another council 100 years later to anathematize stuff from the council before.
And don't stop there. That council wasn't enough either, because you needed another one. We mentioned this to be specific, because we're not mysterious oracles like Kai. We'll actually give you the evidence. Constantinople too, for example, and I've made this point a lot, in the early Latin minutes taught that there's one energy in Christ. And in the council right after, there's two energies in Christ. And then you have basically right now, Ephesus is a Christological council in their paradigm. It informs Christology. But that's not enough. 20 years later, think about, that was the first time in Christian history where an ecumenical council, like two of them are within the lifetimes of the same characters. It's the first time in history. 20 years later, we need another Christological council. Oh, you thought that's it? 100 years later, another one. Oh, we can't stop there. We need another one. And right when it's no longer a Christological council, supposedly Nicaea II, their seventh, they still make it a Christological council. Their whole point of icons was, look at what we talked about when we were talking about the human nature of Christ, related to images now, because of the whole iconoclast movement.
As Subdeacon already told, like we would never, I would never make the fallacy of complexity. Like truth is not bound by if stuff is easy or difficult or whatever. But we, as Subdeacon already told us, our position, our councils are not in contradictory position against one another. That's not our position. So if we would have 8, 9, 10, 11 councils, if that would be orthodoxy, that would be orthodoxy. But they would not contradict each other in that particular way. And also in the Joint Commission dialogues in the early 90s, under which Amba Bishoy Damiet and everything else, Baba Shenouda, the late Baba Shenouda, let Lord, may he repose in the Lord, he told, there was a reason that the monks of Mount Athos, they really disliked this whole dialogue. Why? Because of the remark of Baba Shenouda. You know what Baba Shenouda said? He said towards the Chalcedonians, you guys have 7 councils. You can miss a couple of them. And which triggered the monks of Mount Athos. Why? Because they believed that the councils after Chalcedon, that they also maintained a particular form of tradition. But you as the Orthodox Church should build further upon what came before you. It doesn't matter what you did after that. If you broke off, you broke off. Simple as that.
Yeah. For like when I mentioned the people who don't have a horse in the race, to talk about complexity, I think this is an important thing. To prove Oriental Orthodoxy, because think about it. It's been, let's say, 10 plus years for some people who are really genuinely searching, and they were looking at the Great Schism and the papal claims and the Filioque claims, and they're just looking for the one true church. And all of a sudden there's this new contender, an Apostolic Church claiming to be the one true church, and now they have to look into it as well, Oriental Orthodoxy. They're completely like burdened, and I don't blame them. I'm super empathetic to them. That's why a lot of them like go schizo mode and like affirm like branch theory and things like that. And I don't blame them. I'm completely empathetic. I understand, because you have all of these contradictions and whatnot. To prove Oriental Orthodoxy is very simple. Cyril taught one nature. Council of Ephesus taught one nature. Fathers taught one nature. You talk about the 3 chapters. You talk about Nestor, Sixth, and Chalcedon. That's it. Is that easy. That's all you got to do. If all of what I just said is true, Oriental Orthodox by definition is the one true church. Think about the response, because we keep it that simple. It's that simple. Think about the response. They create confusion. Well, Cyril meant nature as prosopon, but prosopon is not actually the same as hypostasis until Constantinople II, but Constantinople II is supposed to redefine Chalcedon. But Chalcedon, it's actually a restatement of Ephesus. In the Tome of Leo, you can't read it in the Latin articulation yet. What are you doing? You're making it complex, and this is why people aren't buying it. I think complexity is a super important thing that should help you in looking for the true church. We understand there's an established church on earth. We understand Christ would have to make it somewhat simple to the average person who has no horse in the race. We keep it simple, and we have evidence to back our claims. Their entire polemic against us is to confuse everything. Hypostases meant this, here, there. Nature meant this. They can't read Cyril. They take you on this really long maze just for you to come out confused more than ever, or come out realizing, wow, they really just said nothing. Oriental Orthodox was just right the whole time.
Which they're gonna eventually find out.
No.
I hope so. I honestly believe some of them on the stream are genuinely, like, they know we're true. Genuinely, I'm convinced of those three guys who stream, Dyer, Erhan, Kai. The things that come out of their mouth, I pointed it out on my stream. It was like Freudian slips. They were like, person requires substantiality, and then 10 minutes earlier, the Orientals, they believe to be a person, you need a substance. What are you talking about? You just contradicted yourself. Like, I'm convinced they know we're true. I'm serious in saying that.
Thank you, guys. Are you guys brothers for some questions of the audience, of people in the chat? Yeah. People who are in the chat, if you guys have questions or requests for clarifications or differences, this is the time. So please go ahead. And for now, thank you, Shamosho. Thank you, Agen. For now, it was amazing. So this was a gift.
Thank you for having me on, and sorry for the two-natured microphone. It has two wills and two minds and two energies.
Lord have mercy on us. Okay. So, guys, if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat, or else we're going to wrap up. And by the way, in the description, by the way, I have a link towards my study articles, which 80% is just about Christology. So if you guys are more interested in PDF forms, you can download it from our subscription. So yeah, 2 mics, 1 speaker. Okay. Alam says, a question for Agen. What is the tertium quid argument?
Yeah, the tertium quid argument is actually historical. It's very early, very, very early. It actually predates Nicaea. You guys want to know why? Because Miaphysitism predates all of that. Tertullian, and against Praxeas, makes the argument. If you have two substances making one substance, literally the Latin word to use is tertium quid. If it's a substance compounded from two, it's a tertium quid. And that's because Tertullian held to Gnostic beliefs. He held a very strong dual subject Christology, and even McGuckin concedes that's what Leo is pulling from, which is a very bad concession to make. And Tertullian eventually became a Montanist because of his silly views. But basically, the only reason Tertullian was making this argument was because it was apostolically derived in countering the Gnostics to believe that Christ was one individual substance. That was the Aristotelian framework that was handed down. You find it in Against Heresy. So the first time the tertium quid argument was made historically was by Tertullian. Now, what actually is the tertium quid argument? They argue if two natures become one nature, it must the things that united the constituents must be in some sort of potency where they just cease to exist. There's just a third thing now. It's neither divine, it's neither human. It's now a divine human third thing. It's neither consubstantial with the Father. It's not consubstantial with us. The first time this argument was made was because Miaphysitism was the teaching of the early church. You find it in Tertullian, and then you also find it kind of in Novatius. So the tertium quid argument, if you want the way we respond to it, all I see right now, your question is, what is it? That's what it is boiled down. It's that they're accusing us of having one nature, therefore it cannot be divine, it cannot be human, it cannot be in touch with the Father, it also can't be in touch with Mary. That's the argument they make.
And how would you refute that, Agen?
I would refute it by pointing out the early church didn't just affirm any type of composition. It was at the level of the individual substance. And because the two things that are uniting are from different layers of reality, when they come to one, there's no loss of substances. So let me give you an example. If you put milk and water, they're from the same layer of reality, so they can't coexist. Something new would have to result. It'd have to be a third thing. But now if you have something incorporeal from the divine level of reality that's transcendent, and then something circumscribed and corporeal and made of physical elements, when they become one, there is no need for a third thing to emerge, because the things that they're made out of, obviously loosely, the divinity isn't composed of anything, but the things they're made out of are incompatible in the first place, so that when they become one, it's one where there's no mingling, mixture, or confusion. It's one where the synthesis perfectly preserves the natural quality of both of the things which unite. And there's a very good article by someone called Anthony Brigman, who argues that Irenaeus and Against Heresies taught what's called a Stoic mixture theory. So this type of mixture allows for the ingredients to remain without confusion. And the example that was historically given for the Stoic mixture theory was the body and soul union and the iron and fire union. And Subdeacon, who made those arguments in the Christian period? Do you know, Subdeacon? Who made the body, soul, and the heat and iron analogy? I'm thinking of two people. And also later on, an our saint.
Saint Severus?
Saint Severus. There you go. These exact arguments for this type of union was employed prior to Christianity. And you find it being argued by the same fathers. So the body and the soul, if they become one, but my body doesn't turn into my soul and my soul doesn't turn into my body, it would have to follow that the same thing applies. There's no tertium quid for the divinity and the humanity. So that's a short response.
Thank you. I see that the questions are coming in a bit rapidly. So first of all, I think we're going for, I don't know, like 15 minutes, 10 minutes. So I don't know if we can get to all the questions, but first of all, thank you very much. The next one, Rafael Mata. Why do you think they left out the 12 anathemas of St. Cyril at Chalcedon? Subdeacon, if you want to answer.
I mean, I'm going to answer this, but I would love to hear their answer to it. And it's obvious. Why do you think they left out the 12 anathemas? Is because they didn't want them. They didn't want the 12 anathemas. Why? Because it's the same guys who ran 431, the rival synod. I don't know if you guys know. There was a rival synod in Ephesus against the Orthodox one. Theodoret, John of Antioch, Nestorius, and these guys. And they condemned the 12 anathemas as Apollinarian. And they continued to do so even after the formula of reunion. So, and you see this in the letter of Ibas and Theodoret's writings and others. Now, at Chalcedon, that's the side who wins. They're all there present. That they win at Chalcedon. They believe the 12 anathemas are heretical. They're not going to read them. They read a letter at Chalcedon. They read it out loud in the minutes recorded, saying that the 12 anathemas are Apollinarian, which is the letter of Ibas.
But wasn't Chalcedon Cyrillian? That's the whole Chalcedonian selling point. We are Cyrillian.
It's like saying a bunch of good things about somebody, but that's it. You don't.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you didn't finish. Sorry. I was just going to say very quickly, if it was translated in Latin, it would have been an issue. But go ahead, Subdeacon. Sorry.
What, you're talking about the letter of Ibas?
No, the 12 anathemas specifically.
Yeah. If it was translated in Latin, it would be an issue or wouldn't?
Yes, because we have Marius Mercator's translation of the 12 anathemas. When it says do not divide into two hypostases, it's literally two substances. In the Creed of Chalcedon in the Latin, it says one person and not one substance. So had it actually been read at Chalcedon, it would have directly contradicted the Latin version of the Creed.
So the letter of Ibas is read at Chalcedon, saying the 12 anathemas are Apollinarian. The letter is accepted as proof of his orthodoxy. It's not condemned. He is present during the reading of his letter. His Syriac translator is sitting next to him. The letter is being read, and in Syriac, in Greek, everyone's there. They're talking. The communications. If he didn't write it, he would say, I didn't write it. If it was heretical, they would have condemned the letter. None of this happened. It was said, oh, this proves his orthodoxy. Everything was adi, as we say, normal. Okay, that was read. So everyone's like, okay, Apollinarian, 12 anathemas. The 12 anathemas are never read as the standard of orthodoxy, but they were at Ephesus, 431. So what happened?
I mean, JDL asks, do you guys believe EO have salvation? Well, simply put, our job is not to say who is saved, who is not saved. Our job is to be in the ark. Whoever is saved, we leave up to God, but what God has given us, we maintain and preserve it. To whom much is given, much is required. If the Lord has given us orthodoxy, we maintain orthodoxy, but it's not up to us to tell us who should be in heaven or not. So will there be pure people in all of the world who are after the heart of the Lord? Sure there are. But that's not an argument to dilute and to say that there is not orthodoxy anymore. There's not a ark in order to remain in. Your job
I'd
is
like
not
to-
to. Go ahead.
I'd like to show like the whole statement. Do you guys believe EO have salvation? Picks out an institution. Typically, when people ask this question, what they really mean is, can someone who is in Eastern Orthodoxy as an individual find salvation? That is between them and God. But if you ask me specifically about the institution, is this the institution that Christ ordained? We would say, no, it's not. But in regards to what God does for specific individuals, that is between them and God, and we have no pronouncement on it. Like, we're not going to say he goes to hell.
Abuna Lazarus just texted me. He wants me to read this. The problem we have with Leo's tome is that one nature does the suffering and the other nature does the saving. By this we have separated why Christ came to earth and what he accomplished as the God-man. Thank you, Abuna.
Abuna Lazarus is watching. Is he watching right now?
He's watching. He said,
thank you, Abuna. Thank you.
But I'm watching the live stream. Abuna, if you want us to read anything else for you, or even if you want to hop on with us, is whatever you want.
Of course, yes, sir. Of course. Thank you, Abuna. Okay. Is there any place to read councils online?
Kind of. There's a collection called ACO, which has them in the original language. It would be Ephesus, Chalcedon, and then their later councils. We don't have like a critical edition of Nicaea and Constantinople. But if you want to read Ephesus in like the original language, I would check out ACO. If you want the English translations, which are more easily accessible, Father Richard Price compiles a lot of Ephesus. He does leave out St. Theodotus's homilies. There's another a PDF for that, specifically highlighting the homilies of St. Theodotus at Ephesus. So I recommend reading Father Richard Price and also reading Theodotus Evan Kairos. Yeah, there you go. He has it. His homilies, which are read at Ephesus. Those together will give you the full picture of the Orthodoxy at Ephesus. It's a shame that Richard Price didn't put the homilies of St. Theodotus. I believe if he did, apologetics would be a lot more different in today's world. People would have recognized our Orthodoxy a long time ago before we had a online presence. But glory be to God, you can find Richard Price, his translation of Ephesus and Chalcedon, and you can also find Theodotus's homilies as its own PDF.
Well, Abuna texted me again, saying one other thing. The letter of reunion is on for us at the table. We dealt with the two natures prior to the letter. The letter of reunion of 433 defined the parameters of two nature language. We went through this issue already. So if we just stuck to that, everything would have been fine.
Amen. Amen. Because Cyril was accused. I want to add to that. Cyril was accused in letter 40 and in letter 44. Dude, why are you accepting two natures? What's wrong with you, Cyril? Didn't you condemn Nestorius? So basically what Cyril said is, this is in reason and speculation alone. There is one incarnate nature of the word. The parameters are there. It's right there. Please, Eastern Orthodox clergy, I know some of them watch sometimes. If you guys are watching this, ask your bishop, man. This is actually a very serious issue we have to deal with. It's not like we separated and there's just no way to come back together. It was written for us after Ephesus in the year 433. In the formula of reunion, we have the parameters and the keys to unite the churches. But the bad news for them is, if you actually read letter 39, letter 40, letter 44, you're going to tear your clothes in repentance.
So he says, this is my take. Exactly what Agen just said. This is my take. If we just go back to the letter of reunion, it's as if it's waiting for us to reunite us again.
David Demian asks, what's the difference between Nestorian and Diophysitism?
Nothing.
That's a simple answer.
It's actually insulting to the Church of the East that their Diophysitism is viewed as some kind of extreme version. It's literally the same, and the view. And as a Syriac Orthodox, I tell my Coptic brothers all the time, because the Copts in Egypt hear about the big bad Nestorian Assyrian, but we actually live with them. We know we're the right. We just disagree on the church, but they are as close, if not closer, to us than the others. So there is no difference. The way we view the Eastern Orthodox Roman Catholics, we should view the Assyrian Church of the East in the same proximity and even closer. And the reason why that they have this kind of this phobia, if you will, from them is because they venerate Nestorius by name. And honestly, that should make us more comfortable, not less, because they're consistent. They're honest about it. It's out in the open. They're not trying to hide and pretend that they're Cyrillians.
No.
Yeah. Can I add to the Nestorian thing, the difference between Nestorianism and Diophysitism? It's a statement I say all the time. It's very short. If the guy in charge of Nestorianism thinks you're a Nestorian, you're a Nestorian. Period. There's no debating this. Forget about, like, we can talk about the metaphysics. I have a bunch of debates on my channel where I demonstrate Diophysitism regresses into Nestorianism. But just think about it logically. If Nestorius himself, the guy who defines what Nestorianism is, he's the one who sets up, this is what I mean by Nestorianism. If Nestorius himself believes Chalcedon is Nestorian, you are Nestorian. There's nothing you can do about it. And yes, he says it in his Bazaar, and he even says it in a bunch of his fragments, that Chalcedon confirms his faith. Leo and Flavian are the sons in his ministry. He even cites the Chalcedonian Creed and says, this is my teaching. You're by definition Nestorian. What they have to do now is pretend there's no such thing as Nestorianism. They have to separate Nestorius from Nestorianism, separate Diophysitism from Nestorianism. They have to literally, like, I think there was a recent article where it says Nestorius wasn't a Nestorian. I mean, that absurdity is the conclusion you have to admit now.
Himsagi asks, Agen, can you make more videos regarding the theandric will and energy of Christ?
Of course, I'm going to have to touch on it if Dyer Erhan and Kai continue their streams, but sure, that might be something I have planned. I'm going to have a video on there is not two wills in Christ. A lot of the EOs got very heated. I go through a lot of the early church speaking of one will. I even included some rejection of two will statements in my Flora Legend. But sure, I might make an in-depth video on the theandric energy, things like that.
Musty W asks, is hypostasis person? In our understanding, no. We understand that hypostasis is an individuated nature. So in the letter of Saint Basil, letter 210, 214, he speaks of the ousia as the general and the hypostasis as in the particular. So the particularized nature, the nature of whom it belongs. So hypostasis for us is not the prosopon, as we see it. Okay. Therefore, we believe, as Saint Cyril says, the henosis kataphysin, the union according to nature. For us, the center of unity of Christ is not the person, but the nature. Because if you make the person the center, you create a division, which is problematic. Obviously, there's a reason why Saint Cyril spoke of the unity of natures. Anyway,
one of the biggest misinformed, it's not technically a lie, but it's incorrect, that we hear. If I ask someone, what's modalism? They'll tell you, oh, they reject three persons. Incorrect.
Exactly. I know what you're getting after. Yeah.
For the early church, the heresy of the modalists was three persons, one hypostasis. Eusebius of Caesarea says it. Even you mentioned letter 210 and letter 214 of St. Basil. Pick up those two letters and you're going to run away from Chalcedonianism. Modalists didn't reject three persons. They affirmed three persons, but applied them to one hypostasis. The Orthodox Trinity is three persons attached to three hypostases. Prosopon literally means mask or character or appearance. You attach it to a hypostasis. You can also have a mask on its own. So Nestorius would have said one prosopon, and then as the ACOE say modernly, tuk pneuma. One mask, two individual substances. We say there's one pneuma, one prosopon, one parsopa. One mask attached to that hypostasis. We call it an n-hypostatic prosopon. So hypostasis is not person, but sometimes when you're referring to the n-hypostatic person, it can mean hypostasis. So understand that distinction and understand the way in which prosopon is attached to the hypostasis.
Look how Agen is flexing Syriac. It's amazing.
I learned from Subdeacon.
in the last stream that Abuna Murat Kyrillos of Coptic Orthodox Answer said, he says that Chalcedonian Christology is actually modalism in the natures, that the one person, sometimes human, sometimes God, sometimes human, sometimes God. So instead of in the Trinity of modalism, sometimes Father, sometimes Son, sometimes Spirit, now you have sometimes human, sometimes man, etc. So
That's not even an accusation from us. Leo says it. The literal Latin in the tome. The word performs what belongs to word. The flesh performs what belongs to flesh. He uses a Latin phrase called in visum sunt, which literally means every single scholar who's written on this, that's not biased by Constantinople II, they will tell you this means taking turns. That's literally what the Latin word means. Alternating, taking turns. That the word does something here, he shines forth here, the flesh performs that over there. And it's pulling, like I said earlier, when someone asked about the tertium quid thing, that originates in Tertullian. Tertullian says the spirit performs the things proper to it, the flesh performs the things proper to it.
now he's flexing his Latin.
Freak, and then last year,
I'm just telling you, man.
Coptic Mamba. Relax.
My apologies.
Let me see. It has been. There are a lot more questions. Thank you all for your questions for now. But I'm going to let my amazing brothers loose for today. Their day is starting. My day is finishing. Shamosho, Subdeacon Daniel, thank you very much. Agen, thank you also very much. I hope this is not the last one that we cooperate and collaborate with each other again. Lord willing, in the future, a lot more. Thank you all for your wisdom. Thank you all that the homework that you're doing for us, equipping us all the more. I hope the people who have been watching have been enjoying this as much as I have. So this has been an amazing evening. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Let's do it again.
Amen. So I'm going to wrap it up. May the grace of the Lord be with you all. May the love of the Father be with you. May the grace of the Son be with you. May the wisdom of the Spirit be with you all. It has been amazing. So God bless you all and have a great start of your week. So we'll see each other again.